Hello and welcome to Cosmic Soul Sisters. We're a portal to all things mystical, magical, and spiritual, helping to raise the consciousness of humanity one conversation at a time. I'm your Cosmic Soul Sister, Shara.
And I'm your Cosmic Soul Sister, Leah.
And in today's episode, we will be exploring so many fascinating topics, including galactic beings, light languages, and DNA activations, just to name a few. So we are so super excited to introduce you to our guests today, Aeron Lazar and Riya Loveguard. Aeron and Riya work with many races of star beings, including Arcturians and Pleiadians and Sirians. And through their channelings with these light beings, Aeron and Riya are able to provide transmissions for all of us to upgrade our DNA and activations of potential starseed light languages. So Leah and I are so excited to introduce you to our guests today, Aeron Lazar and Riya Loveguard. Aeron and Riya work with many races of star beings, including Arcturians and Sirians and Pleiadians. And through channelings with these light beings, Aeron and Riya are able to provide transmissions for us for upgrades to our DNA, as well as activations of potential starseed and light languages. So welcome to the call all the way from Australia.
Hello.
Hello.
Fantastic to be here. It's a great pleasure to be joining you today.
Wonderful. Well, Leah and I have had the opportunity to participate in a few of your channeled activations.
Amazing.
And wow, they've been incredible, wouldn't you say, Leah?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You both have such a fascinating backstories, and we were wondering if you could potentially share with our listeners just a bit about your individual journeys, just to start us off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
You
shall I
go
go first?
first,
So, yeah, going back, I've had the ability to sort of open up to spirit and the quantum for about the last 20 odd years. I'm 40 now. I turned the big 40 this year. So, but going back, and I remember going back when I was sort of 20 years old, and at that time, I kind of my gifts had sort of manifest themselves into an interest in the paranormal. That's how it started initially. I've always had, even as a child, I had interest in UFOs, and I used to have these crazy conversations with myself. And I remember looking up at the sky when I was sort of like 8 years old, and I don't know any other 8 years old children that sort of, I never experienced anybody that thought this way, but I used to look up at the sky and I thought just what it would be like if you could see sort of television and radio waves in the sky. If you could see this stuff, like I bet the sky would be kind of filled with all of this. And I used to sort of think along these lines, and I used to do sort of paranormal experiments growing up as a teenager. Then I went on some spiritual development classes in my late teens and when I was about 20 years old. And I actually, that then manifested itself in reading tarot cards for people and giving messages to people from sort of past loved ones, etc. And that sort of started with me giving sort of readings for family members, and it was friends, then it was friends of friends. And, you know, it was just almost like on an informal basis. But then what happened was I was sort of spiritually a bit clumsy and a bit lazy back then. So what would happen was I never energetically protected myself. And what I found was that because I'd turned my receiver on and was passing messages from spirits, I was speaking to sort of spirit that had passed over, it's almost like they kind of knew where to come to communicate. So all of a sudden, mentally, I was just swamped with this stuff. And I remember lying in bed, trying to go to sleep. And I was in my early 20s, and I'm just seeing things in my room. I'm kind of feeling the energies. I'm seeing things in my mind. I'm hearing things. And it started to first of all, it was frightening because I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't control it. It just seemed to be getting more and more powerful. And you know, I'll be honest with you. I was pretty scared at that time, especially sort of at nighttime and stuff. It was really unnerving. And I just felt like I wasn't in control of it, and I wanted my sanity back, really. So what I did, I just consciously turned the receiver off, and I just pushed it as far away from me as I possibly could. I didn't want anything to do with it, because, like I say to you, number one, I didn't understand it fully. I had no guidance or mentor at that time, really. I was it was a bit frightening. And I thought, well, if I'm not in control of it, perhaps it's in control of me. And I was kind of scared of these low vibrational things which I was encountering at that time. And so I just basically pushed this away from me as far as I could. And then I went around just running my very 3D life. So I trained as an electrician. So I've always been an energy worker, really, but just a different kind of energy. I was working with electricity then, but instead of sort of channeling light beings, I'd be putting in light switches and receptacles and stuff like that. So yeah, I was very, very 3D, very, very materialistic. It was all about chasing money. I went and I contracted in 2 war zones. It was Afghanistan and Iraq as a civilian contractor for 2 American companies. Worked over there for a while, came back, ran very 3D property businesses back in the UK. And unfortunately, they failed this year because of coronavirus. But then it was at that time, it was a very, very intense period of sort of pain, suffering, soul searching, and stress in the build up to this, because it's been really, really stressful for a good couple of years prior. We started to really press into sort of mindfulness and meditation. And one of the biggest breakthroughs for me, and it was like an epiphany. And I remember I almost, the first time it happened to me, I worked on raising my consciousness, worked on raising my vibration. And it's almost like the only way I can describe it, my consciousness fell back into the quantum. And I came, and it was an amazing experience. I was like, whoa, this is just incredible. But then when I came after the meditation, and I came back to my consciousness, came back to my physical body, I remember it was like a light bulb moment, because I thought, wow, I've just accessed the same spiritual space that I accessed when I was reading tarot cards, but it's just I've accessed a higher vibrational plane of the same space. And I was just like, it dawned on me. I thought, my goodness me, I've had the ability to do this for decades, but it's just I experienced the low vibrational end of it in my early 20s, got scared of it, and kind of pushed it away. So in a way, it was quite ironic, because I realized that the sort of happiness, the quantum, multidimensionality was within me all along, but I'd never realized that potential, and I pushed it away.
You just threw the baby out
I did, yeah.
with the bathwater. So how I come to this story is I've never been very spiritual in a way, like awakened, or I haven't had those abilities apart from the light language. And I've been pursuing mindfulness for a lot longer than Aeron, because I was just basically stressed and quite unhappy with what we were doing at the time. I felt that even though on the surface all looked okay, but deeply I was unhappy. There was a lot of meeting other people's expectations in the businesses. There was this whole persona to live up to, because I had a big online business that I just departed now, and I did not feel happy inside. So I started from manifesting a different life, and I was doing all these meditations in order to manifest. And at some point, and that was, I can't remember, I think it must have been very, very early this year or the previous year, I was doing one of my webinars for my Polish audience, which was all about property investment. And because of time difference between Europe and Australia, I was awake at like 4 a.m. And I was in this weird state of between sleep and awakening. And I had an encounter in my mind, or my consciousness had an encounter with this lady who looked blue and who gave me like an assignment. She said, follow the blue light, follow the grid, and she also said, learn about sacred geometry. And I had no idea who she was. I just gathered she was my spirit guide. Later on, and transpired, they actually didn't come to wake me. They came for him, but they couldn't get through because he was still a little bit like pushing it aside. So even when we were doing meditation, Aeron was trying not to get too deep in it, so not to open up. But basically, I followed what I was given. I followed the grid. I had no idea what a grid was.
Oh, yeah.
So I found out that it was the grid of the earth, the ley lines. And funny enough, we both trained in classical feng shui before. So all these ley lines and energy lines were new to us. But we were approaching it from a very physical earth perspective because we were trained in that a few years ago. But anyway, I found, well, where do I follow this grid? Let's go to the closest place that we know of here in Australia. So that was Uluru. And this is where literally it all just exploded when we went there, because Aeron was reunited with the Arcturian Council. All the memories started flooding back in. It was very, very, very powerful. And at that time, we knew there was no turning back.
When you say the Arcturian Council to be reunited, had you met them before then, or not?
Yes, but not in this lifetime. And so I'm going to try and explain this to you in the best possible way that I can. So when I connected into their energy, it was almost, I had just an innate knowing of who they were. So even though it was my first experience, my consciousness's first experience within this lifetime of connecting into this energy, I just knew who they were. And it was like, the only way I can describe it to you, it was like, and I've written this in one of my social media posts because it's it's a really good analogy, and you can kind of understand from it. It's like knowing that if you had a puddle in front of you in 3D, you've never jumped into that puddle before, but if you jump in, it's going to make a splash. You just know that. And it's just an innate sense of knowing. And I just knew who they were, and I could see myself, and I could see them. I could see the figures in my consciousness. I could see their energy, and I could see what they looked like. And I went up and I embraced them. Like there was 5 of them, and they were definitely sort of like senior elder kind of energy, and I knew them to be the Council of Elders. But this emotion that I experienced in my heart center, it was like I just received this like gush of emotion in my heart center, and it was the equivalent of I'll use this coronavirus analogy now. So let's say, for instance, there's regional lockdowns or we've got travel restrictions, and you haven't seen your family for 8 months or a year, and these are really kind of close and dear to you, and all of a sudden you walk in at the arrivals at the airport and you see them for the first time, and you just get that gush. It was like I'd reunited with family, and it felt like I'd gone home. That's the only way I could describe it. And for me, I'd never felt, when I'd gone in and connected into the quantum or connected into that kind of realm spiritually before, I'd never felt emotion before. So it was a first for me, and I was just like wow, this is just incredible. And so there was just, from the very first encounter, there was just an innate sense of knowing. I just knew who they were. It was that's the only way I can describe it to you. I can't describe it any differently, really.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. It actually does.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Yes.
So would you say, when you've met other races, does it feel different then?
Yes. Yes.
So maybe I'll say that
you're going to talk about the energy now.
Yeah. Every race has a different energetic signature, and the way you in your 3D body react to it is also connected to your memory of that lifetime. Because I know that there is this whole thing going on where people say, oh, I'm a starseed, I'm Team Arcturian, I'm a Pleiadian starseed, but most of us have lived more than one galactic lifetime. And I know because I have lived many myself. So every time I encounter those light beings, the energy feels different, but also some of them you feel more affinity with. So for example, Aeron is all about Arcturians, and I know this is the strongest memory of him, and he feels most comfortable working with the energy. Whereas for me, Sirian energy is the one that kind of touched me the most. And when I met Sirian for the first time, it was just so powerful. I just felt like so grounded. And it is because I had very strong memories of my life on in the Sirian system, and my lifetimes there were quite significant. So each single light race feels different, and they are all beautiful. We don't want to label because we literally work with many of them, but mostly with Pleiadians, Sirians, and Arcturians. those three. For example, when we first met Pleiadians, it was like intoxicating. It was just like a party.
It was so, like, the first time we connected into them, because obviously when we discovered that we were kind of able to go to meet these different galactic light beings in different dimensions.
Actually, it was the Arcturians who said that we need to make the rounds. They said go and meet.
They said it's going to be like because I'm like a creature of habit. So when I used to connect into the Arcturians, that's where I'd naturally, my consciousness would want to go because it was familiar. And then I remember because I was like connected into them again. And again, this is an important point as well. Sometimes you can connect into individual Arcturian energy, but more often than not, they've got a collective consciousness up there. So it's like I find myself connecting into their collective consciousness. So it's like I'm connected to all of them at the same time. And I remember connecting into them, and I wanted to know more about my history, and I had sort of questions and stuff. And one of them came forward and said to me, it's going to be better for your spiritual development if you go out and you need to meet these other light beings. You need to go around, your consciousness needs to experience these different frequencies and different dimensions. And almost like they sent me on my way, it's like, come back whenever you want to, but you need to kind of go away and experience these other races. So we then started going in and doing sessions, and it was like, right, okay,
who are we meeting today?
So the power of intention when you go in there is massive. So you can move your consciousness around the quantum field just with your intention. This is huge as far as the power of intention is massive. So we just said, right, okay, we want to go to meet the Pleiadians. So I set this intention when we went into there, and it's almost like I could feel my consciousness when I went into the quantum. I could feel my consciousness moving further than it had done to connect into the Arcturians. It's almost like I had to go deeper in, like transcend dimensions. And when I started encountering this energy, it was so high frequency. This is the first time my consciousness had experienced this Pleiadian energy. So high frequency, it's almost like, when I started to channel this, it's almost like I wanted to start jumping up and dancing around the room and start singing.
And I pretty much did that. Because, and also what was happening every time we would connect, I would get the language. So I would start speaking Pleiadian and then literally dancing around the room and feeling really, really excited. But we know now it's not that Pleiadians are some party goers or anything like that. No, we interpret their energy as an energy of a party, an energy of dance, because this is the kind of closest we in this dimension know to be that high frequency. Because obviously when we dance, when we're joyful, when we celebrate, that's the highest frequency humans do. So
but then it's like what it was. I'm just sort of explaining our experiences. So this was the first time our consciousness had experienced this vibration, this really high frequency vibration. And like I say, it was just absolutely intoxicating. But then when we connected in again, it almost like we didn't experience the same sense of intoxication. And it's almost like I started to ask why this was. And what I was given is that it's almost like it's the first time your consciousness comes into contact with this frequency. It can become overwhelming, but then it's like your consciousness expands into that frequency. So it's like you almost don't get the same rush the first time you do when you go into there. Your consciousness becomes used to it. And then it's through sort of subsequent visits after that, you just sort of get shown just how advanced they are, and just, just very, very, very advanced race of light beings that just use light technologies, that just are light. And they're just amazing. But like, you know, the first time we connected into Pleiadian, wow, it was just mind blowing. But it's just a blessing. It was incredible, you know, it was incredible. Whereas Sirian is just very solid, ancient, powerful, heavy in a good way. So each race of light beings, the energetic signatures are completely different. And so that's how we experience it. But yeah, so like you say, that's the main differences really between light beings is the frequency.
When you do connect with them, do they have certain missions for you, or did they share with you what your mission would be going forward?
Shall I answer this, or do you want to answer it?
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay. So when I connect in with them, what's important is there's never an expectation from these light beings when you connect in. So it's not, okay, you've connected in, now here's your job, go and do it kind of thing. There's never any of that. They're here to assist sort of rather than instruct. My experiences of them is that there's two things that I tend to receive from them. It's either downloads of information, which is
Insights and knowledge.
Insight, perspective, knowledge, and understanding. And this either comes instantly, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's how it is. Or I'll start to kind of, the pennies will start to drop within the hours after the meditation. I'll be like, oh my goodness me. And it's when you start to gain this understanding, it's not like it comes in, oh, that's potentially a theory. It's like you just have this deep sense of knowing that that's the case, or whatever it is. So that's the downloads of understanding and perspective. What there then is there's sort of different upgrades and light technology that you can bring down to upgrade your own energy field. And these vary. Each light race that we've kind of worked with, Sirians, Pleadians, Arcturians, all do this. It's just different versions of the same thing. So I'll give you an example. With Arcturians, their sort of light codes and technology are pooled from their collective consciousness and transmitted down. So that's how I experience Arcturian. Pleiadian was completely different. So although they've and everything's with these races of light beings, everything's telepathic. So you never go up there and you're never physically speaking. It's just thought to thought, and it's as clear as we're speaking now. That's as easy as it is. So with the Pleiadians, yes, they're connected collectively, but their light technology comes from these external symbols. And what was the name of that shape? It's like two pyramids which were kind of upside down connected together.
Like an
octahedron,
yeah.
Like a 3D pyramid. And their light technology comes from these shapes. And I could see them beaming this down as different rays of light which were coming down. And we've received upgrades in that way. Sirians, again, is different. So they all kind of different.
But going back to the original question, whether they have missions or whether they have tasks for you, it is not like we know, because I think sometimes our religious background, and I've got a religious background, it kind of almost makes us want to think that there's always something for us to do, that we have to do something, that we have to deserve it, or that we have something to do, and there's some expectation. They're not like that.
No.
In our experience. There's a lot more freedom, because we humans, we like to escape from our freedom, and we very, very easily give our freedom away to different institutions, to other people. We like to run away from freedom. And I think it's very important to remember that those light beings, they're not gods. They're not some kind of, that they're not more, they are in ways more advanced than us, but they're not better than us, because they revere us humans, because we've got such a turbulent experience with 3D. The emotions here in three-dimensional reality are so strong that for them it's almost like, oh wow, they're observing and they're learning, and for them is the experience of being someone's spirit guide is just as much of an honor as for us to be guided. And it is mutual respect. It's just different. And when we talk about, let's say, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, seventh dimension, it doesn't mean it's higher. In our, these are just labels, these are just names. It's just a different dimension, it's a different way. So there's things that they experience but we don't, but there's also things that we do experience in our bodies, and it's from extreme joy to extreme pain, which they revere in a way. So for example, for Pleiadians, that helps their souls progress, and almost like by accompanying us, it shortens the time that the soul needs to spend in order to get back to source. So it is all like, it's very important to remember that they are not better than us, they're not higher than us.
It's almost like a fair exchange of
Yes.
energy. So, you know, the light beings that work with us, especially the high vibrational ones, they, you know, it's incredible for us to connect into them, but it's not like a one-way street. You know, these light beings are they're benefiting from the encounter as well, because they learn from our experiences. So, you know, it's very, like Riya was saying, it's, you know, it's very, very human to, we put numbers and labels and this is higher than this and we're in the third dimension, so that's lower than the eighth dimension, all this, and it's just not the case. It's just we happen to be in this dimension that's been labeled third. Now within this dimension, this duality reality, we've got such hundreds of different emotions on a big swing, and you know, we are experiencing, it can be, you know, quite a turbulent emotional experience. It can be roller coasters, so from extreme highs to extreme lows to everything else is in between. These other light races don't experience those emotions. So it's almost like, even though we as humans would say, okay, we're in a lower dimension, they're in a high dimension, they've got, you know, these light beings have got multi-dimensional perspectives. They don't see it in that way. They just see that we're going through this experience in this dimension, but that our souls within this lifetime, within our dimension here, this has got the greatest potential of number of lessons that a soul could ever learn. So from a soul's perspective, not from a human experiencing these experiences within our dimension, but from a soul's learning perspective, we exist in such a smorgasbord of possibilities here to learn lessons that it's like, almost for a soul, it's like the ultimate. It's like the ultimate learning experience that we go through here in our dimension. So that's why there's a fair exchange there. So, you know, it's a blessing to connect in with these, but these beings are learning from us as well. So it's important to realize, you know. And
they all have the unique kind of reasons for connecting to humanity. So for example, Arcturians, we feel like during the first encounter, we were wondering why do they even want to help humanity? What's the catch? You know, what is it for them? So Arcturians themselves, they've ascended through dimensions, so they've made that progress. So they feel familiar with what we're going through, because if humanity wants to elevate their consciousness, then we can follow the path of Arcturians, and we can also have a pool of collective consciousness, and we can like progress from just 3D to 5D. But there's also another thing, is that they feel that for centuries there's been quite an unlevel playing field here, with systems of control, with different institutions, and there is a bit of an opening now. There's almost like a critical mass of people who have opened up to those possibilities, and this is why they want to help, because there's such an unfair advantage of the opposite of the light, of the dark forces that have been on this earth for centuries, that the Arcturians just want to, almost like, using Star Wars analogy, bring balance to the force.
And another thing, just to quickly add, I really think that we are entering such an amazing period of opportunity from a consciousness perspective. It's unbelievable. So I'll give you an example. I was at the barbers. I was at the hairdressers yesterday, okay, getting my hair cut. And
I did my patch as well.
Yeah, I'm having a conversation with a barber, with a hairdresser, who's very three-dimensional, very kind of, you know, very physical, very earthly. And I'm having a conversation about quantum, multidimensionality, and transcending your consciousness. And this guy has opened up and said, "Oh yeah, I've started to meditate myself and all this.
I'm watching Gaia.
Watching Gaia." And so these
What?
yeah, I know. So I just think
It's just a random stranger.
yeah, but I just think what that symbolized for me is just that how many people are beginning to start looking at spirituality and multidimensionality around the world right now. And I think there's going to become a big tidal wave of people en masse across the planet. And it's just such a time to be alive. It's very turbulent, but what a time to experience spiritually. And it's just a blessing. So yeah, the more people wake up, the better, really, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that we picked this time to be here on this? I mean, it's not an accident.
No, definitely. And another thing was that this was a phenomenal thing which happened to me. And so we went to a place, it's called Grid 44, and that's basically where we've got the intersection here in Australia of some ley lines. One of the major ley lines, which comes down through Uluru, sweeps down through the Flinders Ranges north of Adelaide, and you've got some other ley lines which intersect it. And there's a place which is called it's called Grid 44.
And it was a sacred, or it still is a sacred site for the Aboriginals, because a lot of those native tribes or people, indigenous people around the world, they know, and they've never forgotten this ancient wisdom. They know. So the Aboriginals called this place, it's called Walpina Pound in English, but they called it in their language a meeting place. And that's where we went. So
yeah.
you
So we basically hiked up to the top of this mountain and went up there, and we took all of our crystals and all of this and in our backpack and water, and it was like, right, we went, the whole point of the trip, we wanted to go there and to deeply connect and to really deeply meditate to see what came forward. So we just hiked up to the top of this mountain. We sort of found ourselves comfortable positions on these rocks. We just sat there and just went deep into this meditation. And what I sort of experienced was just incredible. And it sort of relates, and the reason I'm explaining it is when you sort of said before, you said, isn't it funny why we chose this time to be here right now? And so, and this, what I was shown was about sort of soul contracts and energetic contracts. And so, and when I meditated, I basically went in and I had this, I went in with the intention, because again, the intention when you go in is important because that sort of sets energetic tone. I went in, I wanted to know more about my history, I wanted to know more about my life on Arcturus, and just gain more of an understanding. So I went into the quantum, connected into the Arcturians' collective consciousness, and then this individual energy came forward, and I saw him in a figure form, and I knew instantly, I recognized his face, and I knew instantly it was my brother from Arcturus. I recognized him, and I felt the emotion. We embraced, and I felt him energetically say, "Where have you been?" It's almost as if he'd been waiting for my consciousness to come to that space so he could come forward, which was beautiful. But then what he did was phenomenal. So I saw, in my mind's eye, I could see this energetic hand of mine. Obviously, within my consciousness, I've got no physical form. It's just consciousness. But I saw this representation of my hand, and I saw the representation energetically of his hand holding mine. And I saw our energy fields merge like this. And what he then did was he showed me, he took me back or forward. I mean, I'm not talking, time isn't linear in the quantum, but he took me to show me our life on Arcturus and basically how we used to live, okay?
Really?
So he took me to this place, which almost, the only way I can describe it is because I don't know what Arcturians would call it, but humans would call it like a small holding, okay? So I'm on this thing, it's like a small holding, I don't want to say farm, but we used to tend to these kind of creatures. I don't know what they were, but
I ask all these questions about creatures. I love animals, so I'm like, are they cute? And,
yeah. So I'm there, and I just remember, I just feeling the emotions of that moment of my memory, my soul's memory, and I remember it just feeling really peaceful and happy. It was like a happy place, and I remember looking up at the sky, and even though it was what you would consider, I don't want to say day or night because there's no day or night on there, but it's almost, it was like a waking hour. It was when you would normally be awake, you wouldn't sleep. And now I'm saying this, I don't even know if Arcturians sleep, I don't know, this is my human language coming out, okay? So I'm there, and to me it was like the waking hour, and I'm looking up, and the sky was just like this turquoise, purpley kind of blue, and I could sort of see these stars. I could see the different moons, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And then I saw this ship come down, and this platform lowered, and then just gained an understanding that my father on Arcturus was part of a strategic planning committee that had been formed by the Arcturians and part of the Arcturian Council of Elders. This had been formed to discuss strategy around human consciousness ascension. So he was part of this strategic committee. I gained the understanding that he knew that I was a gifted individual and soul, and put forward the notion that I should be incarnated here in 3D to help humanity's consciousness ascend, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm then shown is the Arcturian technology and how advanced it is. So the Arcturians, their light technology and technology is so advanced that they have the technological ability to remove souls and consciousness from fellow Arcturians. That can only happen with agreement. So this is where these energetic contracts come in. So what I was shown that when it comes to sort of soul contracts and energetic contracts, these, instead of being sealed with a signature, which obviously in 3D, in Earth perspective, signatures are here on Earth, they can be coerced, they can be forced, they can be forged, they can be faked, but you can't fake an intention. So how these contracts are sealed is with intention. So you've actually got to want to sign this energetic contract. If you don't, it doesn't come to pass. You're not forced to do this, but the proposition was put forward. I agreed, and I signed this energetic contract with my intention. That's what I was shown. And then what happened was I was taken from Arcturus, and I was incarnated here on Earth into 3D. And part of my soul, part of the energetic contract I signed, and my soul's purpose is to assist in humanity waking up, basically. And obviously, when I've come down to Earth, I've come down to 3D, I've gone through this veil of forgetfulness, and I've only just realized what this is, ironically, yeah. So that was the past, Earth linear past. Okay, so then what he did do, this is still in the meditation now that I'm getting this. What he then did, he took me forwards, and it was between 600 and 800 years linear Earth time future here on Earth, and showed me what life would be like here on Earth. Yeah. And then I gained this understanding and perspective of how what's now going to play out over past our physical lifetimes here over the next sort of 600 to 800 years. And it was really, really interesting, because going forwards to 600 to 800 years, there's not going to be, just as there is at the moment in 3D, we've got this battle for power, land, resources. What there's going to be a battle for ascension, and there's going to become factions on Earth. And so basically human consciousness, people are going to learn to collectively ascend their consciousness, and it's fine. But then what that comes, it's almost, because we still live in this duality reality, it's almost like the humans get in the way again. So each faction on Earth believes that they have the best way to ascension. And that's why you get these splits. So it's no longer about power, resources, land. It's basically it's a race, and it's a battle for ascension, basically. And I was shown, and I was just shown this just greater perspective. So that for me, like I say, it answered a lot of questions which I had about my soul's history on Arcturus. But then it also gave me just a greater understanding of basically why I'm here. And I was also shown that if people are looking to really go deep into connecting to the quantum, etc., then ley lines and stuff around Earth are a really fantastic place to do that. The connection is really, really strong, and it's really, really deep there.
Yeah, that's where your insights actually happened, was in a special place. So like, if any of you are watching us, there is places everywhere. There's places in both Americas, in Europe, in Africa, Asia, and usually the ancients knew where those special places were, and sometimes even many religious places are on those old sites. So just find a place where the local indigenous people consider sacred and go there basically if you want the deeper connection that can really assist.
There's some very magical places that are near us because of Native American tribes.
Yeah, Mount Shasta in California is one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think Sedona as well, I would say, in Arizona.
Probably quite a few all around.
Yeah. The ley lines are really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful sort of energetic lines. And we, like, when Riya said we've studied classical feng shui, in the ancient system of Chinese metaphysics, they just refer to them as dragon veins. And dragon veins come down from the mountains in different forms, and that brings different forms of energy. And it's a system of basically predicting and utilizing energy here on Earth. But they're basically talking about the same thing. So the Chinese metaphysical system talks about dragon veins, but they're actually just ley lines.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just referred to under different terms, really. So,
do you know anything about them being more activated lately?
Especially.
Yes. Yeah. So on the solstice, they're going to light up, basically. So on the 21st of December, they're going to light up massively. And
so we can already say we actually just recorded like a little solstice present, which is a free preparation activation. This is something that's been channeled by Aeron from Arcturians, and they will. It is like an activation and transmission of Arcturian energy that prepares our receivers, so we can make the most out of solstice. So we'll be releasing this soon. It will be free for anyone who wants to access it. It's like as our solstice gift.
Gift to the community, basically.
Yeah. So, definitely that 21st December will be a powerful date. So prepare.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting. What do the galactic beings think of the ascension process, and do they have any, I guess, where do they think we're at? Like, I'm sure they don't have expectations where we should be at, but are they satisfied with how far we've come with the ascension process, or?
They know it's inevitable. Every single message that Aeron channels, it's one thing is sure, it is inevitable. It's happening. So for us, it's us humans who can be impatient, because like yesterday, a couple of days ago, we I think Aeron channeled a message about the next 6-8 months, and people are like, oh my god, 6-8 months, how long can I wait for, etc.
If this doesn't happen on the 21st, I'm done, and all this.
So basically it is inevitable. It is absolutely happening, but at the same time there's turbulent times ahead. So I think the challenge is just to, first of all, remain grounded and positive, but at the same time also do not judge. Don't judge ourselves. We don't have to measure against anything or anyone. And as we said, there is no expectation. It is happening. There's nothing that can happen to stop it.
I think what we lose. I think all of us can be sort of guilty of sort of losing sight of this. Is that once we elevate our consciousness into the quantum, we've kind of individually ascended our consciousness when we go in. What humanity's ascension, I've been shown, is collectively how we ascend our consciousness in. And, that can be a process. That may not happen on the 21st, may not happen. But I just think that, this is just going to be a process whereby there's many, many people who are awake now on Earth. The fact that we're here talking on this YouTube channel about ascension, and the spiritual community is just growing and growing. I had a conversation with a barber in my hairdressers yesterday talking about quantum, so people are just waking up, and I think, that's a process. But just never forget that all of us at any time can individually ascend our consciousness into the quantum, so we can ascend personally. It's just how long it's going to take for us to collectively do it as a species here on Earth, really. So, there's no reason for any of us individually to feel feelings of frustration or impatience, because it'll happen in divine timing, all in perfect timing.
I think there's one more thing that's important to say. I already touched upon it, is about not looking up to the light beings for some kind of salvation. I think we've got this kind of think about the
Someone's
doomsday,
gonna come and save us,
like Jesus will come for the second time and it will all be put together. But some people look at that as extraterrestrials. They think that those ships are hovering and there'll be some military intervention. Well, I'm here to tell you, I don't think there will be. it is our responsibility, it is our planet. And some people are getting really frustrated with the ETs, like, why don't they come? And because there's child abusers and there is all these bad things happening, why don't they come? Well, because after all, it's humans doing all these things. We can always pin the blame on other races like reptilians, etc. But after all, it's also humans who are doing different things that are not fair, and it's also humans' responsibility for their planet. And this is something we can learn from other races. So, for example, we've met Andromedans in our galactic journey. So that they didn't seem like they're that interested in us humans. They're not as kind of involved in our experience as the Arcturians or Pleiadians or Sirians. But what they have done is they have gone through an incredible process of creating a sustainable planet, because they were on that curve where the resources were about to run out, and they have this amazing system of being one with the planet. It's almost like a eco-utopia that they've got. So we can take inspiration from them, but after all, it's going to be up to us to think beyond what's that new Earth's going to be. Once those systems of control fall away, what then? Do we fall under control again? Or do we actually create something different? Do we create some new quality? And this is something that Pleiadians have been pressing on you as well, where they were saying that, look, we need to have a thing beyond, because it's almost like a warning sign. Yes, the ascension is happening. Nothing is going to stop it. Human consciousness is waking up. That's absolutely inevitable. But what next? Do not replace the same old system with another form of slavery, another form of dependency. I think, again, if I was to have one message, is we are sovereign human beings, and let's not give, as individuals or as collective, our freedom away to anything external. It's all within us.
100%. You guys touched a little bit on reptilians. I don't know if that's something you would feel comfortable going in more.
Yeah, we can talk about reptilians.
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I can tell you that I was a reptilian in my previous lifetime, and I can't help it. That was one of the things that happened to me in my soul's journey. And I was
do you
also.
Want to talk about your experience with it, with the Pleiadians?
Yeah. So I talked. So first of all, when we met Arcturians, they have no judgment, for example, to reptilians. They told us what's happening, but there is literally, we like to judge here. There is no judgment in 5D towards reptilians. They literally...
Humans in the same situation that reptilians are in would do the same as a species, and would be high-fiving one another, and would be seen as heroes on their own, with their own race. So, we do it to animals, we do it to plants here on Earth. So if we were running out of resources, then we would get those as not individually, but as a human race, we would look for those resources wherever. So we can't judge from that perspective.
From our understanding, what reptilians, and there's a couple of other races are doing, they feeding off our low vibrational energy. And they could... And that's how they're fueling their planets. That's how they're fueling the system. And some of them are incarnated in human bodies. But it's just something that we also do. And I'll give you an example. Again, no judgment. We have a choice. For example, we could, what we fuel our bodies in. We can be vegan, we can be meat eaters, whatever. We choose whatever we want. And in the same way, they choose to take the energy of our low vibrations. They could go elsewhere, but this isn't easy.
It's easy for them. Yeah.
But so that's how it was, and that's how Arcturians explained that to us. And we also met briefly after. We heard their side of the story. But what I wanted to tap to all my galactic memories, and I wanted to get back all my languages, all my memories. And I got my Pleiadian back, I got my Sirian language back, I got my Arcturian. I've had that for years. Yeah. I didn't know it was Arcturian at the time. I've also tapped into my memories of Lemuria and Atlantis, so I can speak those 5 light languages. But I also wanted to experience my reptilian side. And the problem with reptilians is nothing comes for free.
Everything's a catch.
Everything is a catch. So in order to download a light language, you connect to the energy of those light beings. And that's how I usually download all these light languages. When I connected to Pleiadian, I got Pleiadian language. When I connected to Sirian, I got Sirian language. So I thought, I'm going to see if I can speak reptilian. And yes, I can. But the only thing was, when I started speaking it, all this memory started flooding back. So I could literally feel myself with a tail. I could feel like I could climb, and I'm scared of climbing. I could feel like I've got this power within me, and it's that nasty thing, because it's that kind of, the tail is literally,
It's like a sting.
It's like a sting in it.
Yeah.
And I felt, oh my God, I feel this is rising, but that's the dark side. And I know it's a dark side. Do I want to pursue it or not? So I've been walking around with this for about a day, and I've been practicing my newly found light, well, not light language, dark language, I would say. And I've been practicing it, and et cetera, et cetera. I felt, that doesn't feel right. And I felt like there always is a catch with them. So there will be some price to pay. It's not like given with love. It's not given with blessing like Arcturians or Pleiadians do. There will be some agenda with it. And sometimes it's almost like they are sorry for themselves, and they try to paint, we just playing our role, etc. I don't want anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. So what happened then is like, how do I stop it? Because it must say, reptilian energy is like some drug. It's probably what people experience when they're taking like some, I don't know, crystal meth, where it gives them this superpower, but it comes at a price. And I thought, I don't want to go down that route. So Aeron's like, stop speaking this language. Don't do it. Like, let's and don't even think about those memories of having tail, etc.
So basically, I connected into the Pleiadians because I thought, right, these guys, we need to kind of like flush Riya's energetic field out with light, basically.
Yeah.
So connected in and just set the intention. I said, can you just upgrade our energy fields, and can you just basically flush out any sort of dark resonance from Riya's? And literally, as I'm sitting there channeling this, I could just feel this rush of energy. It was almost like the only way to describe it was like an energetic burst of a jet wash, which just kind of came down like this.
And that was powerful.
You experienced it at the same time.
I was almost like taken back in my chair.
And it was basically, this energetically was just blasting this frequency out. And it's almost like the container was clean again. And
I forgot the language. I know that if I wanted to, I could get it back. I could connect again, but I'm never going to do it. So
what's important to remember is because as humans, again, we live in this this reality of all possibilities and all potentials. So it's a little bit like this whole energetic. This is why Star Wars was just such a masterpiece, because
we loved Star Wars even before we kind of knew about that.
So basically, this energetic work, it is like the Force. This is how it is, and you've got Anakin Skywalker, who was taught by Jedis. He was taught by the good people, but then he went to the dark side. So within this energetic work that we've got, there is the potential as a human being to tap into the dark side of this energy. And that's, I think, is important for the viewers watching, because it's all about your intention. So whatever energy work you're going to be doing, always go towards the light. And this is why I felt it was important to connect into the Pleiadians and flush out this low
dark energy
resonance from your field, from that connection to your soul's history, because it's just not going to serve a higher purpose here in 3D. So it's important to realize, anybody who's watching this, who's just elevating their consciousness for the first time into the quantum, it's really important for your intention to be pure, your heart to be pure, and always look to the light. So no matter if you're tempted to start looking at the dark, just don't go there. Just always work with the light. But there's the potential for
both. And yeah. I'm very happy I have discovered it. It gave me some insights about the other side. It didn't last long because I didn't let it to last long. But I at least I know what reptilian sounds like. I know what the energy is like, and I know that there's nothing ever that comes for free with this race. So there's always some catch.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, a concrete example here on Earth, of how this kind of like dark side has been used, basically. And I'm not going to name the country that was doing it, but I'm sure if people looked on the internet, they could do.
Yeah.
But they basically had people, sort of energy workers, that would sit there working within these secret government departments that could basically transcend their consciousness and damage other world leaders. So they would cause these other world leaders to have migraines and headaches at strategic meetings and things like this. Yeah. So this is sort of dark energy work that goes on and has been utilized for decades by governments. There's sort of secret programs and research programs which have gone on.
That's probably in many countries.
Yeah, many countries around the world have utilized this, and you can find this out on the internet. I'm sure there's programs online and stuff about it. But it just goes to show, how, with this energy work, there's absolute potential for both sides of it. But from my own personal perspective, and I'm sure everybody who's trying to ascend their consciousness and go up, everybody needs to focus on the light, basically, and that's the message. So,
yeah, 100%. You guys had talked about some civilizations in the Hollow Earth in some of your works.
We've heard about some underground civilization. We don't have much insight about them, but we have. I remember we had some transmission that there is some beings in the depths of the ocean and underground that kind of, they don't work together, but there is something that they do that almost like puts the distortions on the resonance that is coming from
Gaia.
Earth, from Gaia. So there are things there, and you can probably, go deep and explore, but we focused in our journey on upgrading our energy field, and rather than focusing on the dark, we've been focusing on, what can we do to upgrade? What codes can we download to be better?
If our soul's purpose is to help humanity ascend, help humanity's consciousness ascension, then from our own perspective, we need to be focusing on that, basically, because it's we're not looking to descend humanity's consciousness. We're looking to raise people up and raise people's vibration up and connect people into their multidimensionality and actually realize the full expression of consciousness which they are. And so, from our perspective, that's sort of what we're focusing on. So
they're not working on the grids for our benefit. Is that correct?
Say again?
They're not working on the grids to help us.
No.
Or humanity. Okay.
No.
I think there are different races. There are good and the bad, and it's in everywhere. I mean, even good and bad is just our human kind of concept. But we would call it probably light and darkness. So there are different races. It's not something we focus on. As I said, our main area of focus is just elevating consciousness and also making quantum available for people, and just showing that it doesn't have to be done by a third person. And yes, Aeron transmits those codes, etc. But our kind of dream is for anyone to be able to access it on their own terms, especially for me, because Aeron's had this gift and he just pushed it aside. But we kind of tend to feel like it is a special gift to be doing things like that. And that because we call it supernatural, paranormal. So it's like, it's not normal. But it is normal. And we want to make it normal. We want to make it possible for people who have been struggling, because I've been struggling with feeling anything extraordinary. I've had years worth of meditations where I just faithfully meditate, I turn up, and yes, I've been manifesting the life of my dreams, I've been doing all of that, but I haven't been seeing visions, I haven't been experiencing any other dimensions until we started kind of working together.
And I think Riya she just felt, because she sort of spiritually showed up really
more than once a day,
everywhere, at least once a day. But she was just showing up every single day and pressing as hard as she could. And what she was finding was, because yes, she'd meditate, yes, she'd quieten her mind down, but couldn't quite bridge that gap into the quantum, couldn't quite elevate the consciousness. There was a growing sense of frustration that was building within her. And I remember clearly, if you don't mind me, Jen, but I remember clearly there was one day I was just sitting on the sofa. I think I was watching TV,
playing
FIFA on the PlayStation or whatever it was, and so sort of Riya came in, and she just like straight away there was this like negative energy coming off her, arms folded, and she's like, and she's just like, I just this spirituality is just not for me. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And then she kind of sat down on the sofa, like not just crossed her arms, but crossed her legs as well. It was just like, I just don't know what my place is in this. I'm just meditating. It's all right for you. You can just flip in when you want to. It's just like, I just can't break through. And she was just, I mean, you can understand. I mean, obviously, yes, I was trying to help Riya, but we're still husband and wife, you know. So she was kind of, as a husband, my wife was getting really cross with me because it was like, I just seemed to be able to go in with not that much effort, but, you know, Riya was really struggling. And I just said, look, I said, it's there. It's just a thought away. You literally, it's like all you need to do is to quieten your mind down. And then from that point,
we started doing little exercises.
Yeah.
And those really simple exercises. And I just kind of knew that it was there all along. It's just so simple. And I think our job, at least for the foreseeable, is to show people that it is simple and it can be simple. And yes, there will be some people who perhaps are meant to be channels and are meant to channel like beings, etc. And maybe I'm not necessarily full-time channel like Aeron is, but anybody can elevate their consciousness, and anybody can experience at least their own spiritual guidance, at least their own intuition. And sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it's about trusting it. Sometimes it's about actually not getting yourself and your conscious mind in a way. But if we've got a message for the audience, is that you can. There is nothing, you're not like, your consciousness is perfectly healthy. Yes, your pineal gland might need some decalcification. Yes, you might need to, just do some exercises, but it's already in you. It's same with light languages. It's all in you already. It's nothing external, and anybody can do it. It's not just reserved for some 144,000 special people or whatever. It is for everyone.
Would it be okay if you spoke a few light languages for our viewers?
She'd love to.
I love my languages. Yes. Yeah.
What do you want to start with?
I'll start with my old language, which is Arcturian. So Arcturian goes like that. Hela hesh ahas heya hesh ahasia het. Arachtia hela adiahet hesh ahasia. Mahetia hesh ahasarahatia radiadama adayama. Lahatia hela hesh ahas ahaya ahla. I could go all day. So that's Arcturian. It sounds a bit like Arabic to me. If Aeron speaks it, it's even like harsh. That is Arcturian. I can do some Pleiadian for you, and I also discovered Atlantean and Lemurian. So perhaps someone is listening and they've got a light language, and maybe will give their memories back and realize, oh, that's the language I speak. So Pleiadian is very quick, and not as quick as fairy, because I've heard some people speak fairy language, and oh wow, that is like on another level. But Pleiadian is very high vibrational too. Atieta da sita da shiti tu suta da tita da mana odia de shitia sitia matiti tuzi adia menina na matito tu da shita da satita da ba odia de madia na ma atia de sita da shita da sitia da ba odia katia de mana na sita da shita yasa ea da mania dadia mana edia ma ashia de tisiti odia ma adia ma ai. So yeah, that comes with a bit of hand movement. Sirian is completely different. That's grounded. That's like rock solid. So Sirian sounds like that. Eda, are, oda, a, ea, ama, ade, ara, dare, ala, de, oda, ma, de, ama, agedeada, amuda, adare, adaradama, areada, areadu, odemane, ea, ash, adarakat, eradarama, adea, adea. So it's different. You see, if you actually tune in and not just listen to the words, but listen to the energy, they all have different frequencies. So now I've got two more languages, which are not galactic. They're from the Earth, so it's Lemuria and Atlantis. And to me, and I wonder whether the audience feels the same, add the
little story in about the lady that you heard in the
shops.
Yeah,
so,
you love it.
Yeah, so basically, Atlantean is very masculine. And I almost didn't want to connect to it. I don't know why. Lemuria was drawn to Atlantis. It's very masculine. Lemuria is very feminine. Lemuria is like a mother's energy. And it was really interesting because I got both of these languages literally in one quantum session. So we've connected to Atlantis and we're connected to Lemuria, and I downloaded both. And a couple of days later, I was in a shop buying a hat because I've lost my hat, and for Australia sun you need a hat because otherwise it's going to burn. And there's those ladies who look like they're from some Pacific islands, like maybe Tonga or Samoa, or I'm not sure. And I heard their language, and it sounded very similar to Lemuria language. So it must, this similar language, it still lives on in the area where Lemuria was.
You got really emotional, didn't you?
I got really emotional. So let's speak a little bit of Lemuria. And it is, to me, it just almost seems like a language of a mother, kind of like calming a child down. Now, let me just get to the right. Ma e ma o ma a e a ma dea a ama a o ma a dea ma ama aya a o ma a ila a lila a alema a ma ea a o ma a e a ma o amale ala ma dea ma ama a e ala o ala e a ma o mala e a ma e a ala e a ma. It's quite a calming language, and a few people who got the same language on our last live language masterclass, they actually started singing this language, and it sounds like a lullaby. It's beautiful. Sometimes live languages come with a melody as well. So I've got one last one for you, which is the language of Atlantis, and this is also interesting because some of the languages like Sirian and Lemurian, I feel like I'm still learning vocabulary. Sometimes when you get a light language, it's quite slow. It only develops. It's not a full-blown language. Whereas Aeron said, when we were downloading Atlantean for me, he said, let her have the whole thing. And he's, what did you see?
I could see like almost like energetic dictionaries and words just flowing down into a field. So I just wanted you to have like the full vocabulary, so energetically pressed into it.
So Atlantean, I've downloaded like already. I was instantaneously fluent. The other ones I'm not. So let's do a bit of Atlantean. Ashat, Edak, Aradak, Ataketukat, Amakatuk, Atakat, Etekaradak, Atikat, Atashukotakasita, Katabak, Taratak, Atuk, Amadekatakamak, Akurak, Adiakashaka Sak, Atiakuta Katakala, Katabak, Areduradak, Adakash, Atakatikut, Arakat, Eakat, Araderat, Atukuta Katashaka, Sitakata Katakuta, Shatasa, Edarak, Arak. So yeah, quite strong.
It's so
The
interesting.
first time I heard when you spoke Syrian for the first time, I had like tingles all over my body, goosebumps all over my body. Like I could feel my crown chakra, and just like I felt like a huge rush going down the back of my back.
Probably your Syrian memories coming back. And when I first downloaded Syrian, it also, I felt it in my crown, because Syrian beings, they've got this kind of big elongated, like they've got, if you think of some Egyptians, because like there was Egyptian pharaoh called Akhenaten. I think he was actually Syrian, because he had this elongated skull. So sometimes you feel that. So when sometimes memories come back. So I'll give you an example. Like I mentioned about my reptilian experience, where a memory of a tail came back, but it was the same way as when I started speaking Lemurian, and I was going around the ocean, and I could see people surfing, and it's almost like I remembered my memories from Lemuria, my memories of being in the water, of like some kind of almost like water hoverboard. I can't even remember exactly what it was, but something there stirs up. So usually if you hear the light language and something snaps you out of like, oh wow, there's some tingles, that's probably because you've got affinity with it. I remember when I first heard Syrian spoken in someone else's guided meditation, and by the way, that person's an Arcturian channel, so I thought, I didn't know what was going on, because that person was an Arcturian channel, and then I hear this language and I hear it, and it's like, oh, wow, this feels like home, but I was actually Syrian. so it snapped me out of the meditation. I was so chilled, and all of a sudden I hear this language, and it was like a bolt. And yeah, so it is usually, light language is a good indication of your memories of where you were in galaxy. It can give you a bit of a snippet to pursue where you're from. And where you are. And usually the first light language that unfolds in people is the one of the most recent or most significant galactic lifetime. So that's why Aeron just speaks Arcturian.
Yeah, that's it. I tried to speak a second, and it's not. I just get the Arcturian. So
I think Arcturian energy is so strong with you.
Definitely
Doesn't have space for anything else.
I think it's that soul contract. That's what it comes down to. So.
So I'm curious, when you connect in with the different light beings, do you actually use those languages, or is it more just of a knowing conversation?
It's a bit of both. Like what you can do is, obviously I was connecting into the different energies without light languages to begin with. But what you find is when you speak these different light languages, or even if you played a recording of a particular light language, it's got the frequency of those race of light beings. So it's almost easier for your consciousness to tune in when you hear the light language. So it can be used as like a tool to sort of raise your vibration, or tune your vibration into the right sort of station.
And
if you
most of the communication is done like mind to mind, telepathically, although the light beings love when we speak their language. It almost feels like an honor. It's like, imagine being an ambassador
the Andromedans give you a song.
So it's like being an ambassador of a foreign country, and you go to that foreign country, speak their language. It's like, it's really nicely received when you do that. And also when I did a masterclass on light languages lately, and I was doing an activation, we were both doing the activation, I could feel the emotions of all these light beings welcoming their soul tribe home. And I almost feel emotional now. So they were really rejoicing for people to be getting their memories back, to be tuning into the soul contract, the starseed kind of origin. They love it. And I remember when we first connected to Pleiadians, they were encouraging me to speak the language because they loved the resonance. It was like music to their ears, basically. And I remember when we connected to Andromedans, even though I can't speak Andromedan because this is not my language, I've never lived in Andromeda galaxy, they gave me a song praising elements, and they gave me like a little song, and they were encouraging me to sing it. So I was channeling it. So I think there's a difference between speaking a light language because it's your memory, and actually almost like channeling their language. So that's how it's done. But you don't have to do the communication light language. It comes mind to mind. It comes as pictures. I mean, I never get visual stuff. I get sensations. Aeron is all about visual. So again, there's no right or wrong. Everybody gets different way of connecting to the quantum. It's just trusting your intuition, because it might come as a thought in your head, it might come as a feeling in your body, it might come as everything, it might come as a picture, it might come as a video. Lots of different ways, same kind of thing.
You don't always feel them near you, like you can't feel the energy when they're near you. Like
we can.
Look at the 3 Arcturians that you had. So maybe talk about that a little bit. So.
Yeah, so we can feel the energy, and they always a thought away and an intention away. So they never push. They're not like some kind of, it's not like a spirit of some auntie who's kind of hovering around and doesn't want to let go. No. You invite them to contact you. And if you want to feel your spirit guides really close, ask them to merge their energy field with yours. Because that's what was helping me at the beginning. And I was feeling then sensations in my body, in my heart. And I've got like 3 Arcturian females who are quite a young energy. And they're my friends from kind of equivalent of university on Arcturus. So when I first started connecting to them, we were asking, because I wasn't as open as Aeron is, where I needed something more solid. So I was asking them, come So you merge your energy fields into mine, and then I could feel them.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Well, you guys, we want to be so respectful of your time. It's just amazing that you were on with us today. We appreciate it so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Like honestly, I've really sort of enjoyed talking to you, talking about the quantum. It's always a pleasure to do that. So
Yeah, we
thank you.
actually have this light language masterclass coming on, which is going to be in a couple of hours. So we'll probably better get a team meeting on. That's what we do.
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. So so before obviously if I know I've got a transmission coming up, we tend to go into the quantum. We have a bit of a team meeting with my guides, basically. So it's just to confirm that they're happy, and this is what I'm going to be doing, etc. And just ask that they kind of bring the energy in quite strongly. And one, that was a sort of eye opener for me. And when I sort of discovered that I could transmit this, it was just a bit mind blowing. And they pressed into me. They said, with this light technology, you're actually able to like transmit this to other people. And the first time I kind of did this, I'd done it person to person, and I knew it had worked because the person I could see they felt physical sensations. But the first time I sort of did it electronically through a screen out to an audience, I thought, right, okay, is this going to be as strong as it was when I was doing it person to person? And sort of the feedback we started getting, I was just like, oh my goodness me, this is just really, really powerful stuff. And so, and another thing, I mean, this is something I'm going to have to work with my guides after we finish this, is that when I'm sort of transmitting this stuff, I've noticed a pattern where the energy is being sort of so great, it started to knock out my connection on the internet. And people have heard like static and sound and audio problems.
So today's team meeting will be all about, okay, how do we
streamlining
how do we
energy.
do it so people get the activation and the energy, but without being kicked out of the webinar room?
Yes.
So yeah,
that's a challenge, but yeah, it's a blessing. And thank you both so much. It's been like a real pleasure, seriously.
Would you like to tell our viewers where they can find you, or maybe about the things that you have coming up? I know Shar and I are both signed up for your 3-day workshop you're doing.
That's amazing.
Yes,
that's amazing.
We've got a 3-day workshop coming up. It's called Quantum Deep Dive. It's on the 11th to 13th of December. So I'm not sure if the listeners and watchers will still manage to watch it before. If not, find us maybe on Instagram, Aeron.Lazar, or same on Facebook. And we always be doing some free webinars as well, just so everybody get a chance to experience the transmissions and to actually see for themselves what this energy feels like. So if you find us there, that there's channeled messages, there's energy transmissions. So we still haven't got a website ready yet, but that's coming. Yeah. It will be aeronlazar.com. So there we go.
Yeah.
Aeron spelled with A-E instead of A-A.
Well, if you guys are coming on the workshop, I'm not sure, on the Facebook group yesterday, I posted, I did a channeled energy transmission to open up everybody's third eye in preparation for the workshop. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's on there. Just jump on it.
Yeah, exactly. And we will definitely be doing more energy transmissions and more codes. It's just getting around all the tech and just preparing all of that, because there's one thing, all this 5D stuff, there's a lot of 3D to accompany it.
Oh, that's frustrating. You guys are wonderful.
You are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You guys are a blessing. And thank you for the chat. It's been really, really cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you
so
much.
See you guys soon.
Great. I will stop recording here.
Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed the interview and our beautiful guests as much as we did. It would really help us out quite a bit if you would like and subscribe to our channel, because it will help us get the word out to more people. Until next time, we are sending you lots of love and light. Thanks for joining us, guys.